Hello, welcome to our Extended Disc webinar. My name is Christina Bowser and I'm the training director here at Extended Disc, and joining me today is my colleague, president of Extended Disc, Marku.
Hi, Christina. Hi, everybody.
Hello. So quick, 15 minutes. We are recording this webinar, so in case you need to go back or share it with somebody, we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel. Questions, we encourage them, however, we won't be taking them live, so just put them in the question box and we will follow up after. So I came up with this topic because I just find it, I love being able to talk about different aspects of DISC. So I asked Marku to come and kind of help me explain what this title of this webinar is, which is I'm Successful, Why Change?
Yeah, it's kind of a counterintuitive kind of title. Hey, why am I'm already successful? Do I need to do anything? But it's actually, and I know you've seen this firsthand when you delivering training, when sometimes people who are doing quite well, they get this reaction, or sometimes they ask you that, why do I need to change? Because I'm doing quite well. I'm pretty happy where I'm right now. And that's really the topic today. And we're going to dive in a little bit deeper, and hopefully we can provide some ideas how we can avoid this trap where we actually become very stagnant in terms of our level of success.
Right, and for many of you out there that are doing DISC trainings, you know, your client might actually not come out and say it, but there are people usually in the group, somebody's thinking, you know what, I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing because it's worked for me.
Yeah, and the main reason I believe is that because modifying behavior, it takes effort and energy, and it's really challenging. So if I'm doing well, I'm successful, maybe I have a bigger challenge to really deal with that. Why would I even try to change? I have achieved these kind of milestones already. Why do anything?
Yeah, and like you said, it's hard to change. It's not comfortable. It's pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and really, my good friend Marshall Goldsmith taught me this long time ago, that there really is what he calls a superstition trap about when it comes to successful people, and it works this way. Person who's successful, they think, hey, I behave this way, I'm successful, so I must be successful because I behave this way. And in fact, a lot of us who are successful individuals, sometimes we actually have achieved success in spite of ourselves.
Not the best positive reinforcement.
So we want to really think about how do we get to the next level. Of course, we are assuming with this topic today that people want to continue to be successful and increase their level of performance. And if you are one of those individuals, hopefully we can give you some ideas how to do it yourself, and then you can transfer those concepts to your clients.
Right. I don't think any of us have ever believed that we've reached the pinnacle of our success, right? There's always more success to be had. So just taking a quick step back for a sec, we just wanted to show you and talk about how we're going to introduce this topic today. So you see here the 4 DISC styles on the DISC model. You know, there are 2 specific descriptors for each one. And just for the sake of time today, I asked Marku just to focus in on one of these DISC styles. So we're going to focus in today on the D style.
Yeah, we're going to talk about these only, but the principles are the same for every style. And of course, we are a combination of these all 4 styles. And of course, here if you look at D style, for example, we only use 2 words there, direct and competitive, which are accurate descriptors of D style, but obviously there's a lot more.
Right. So, you know, and the rest of the report, even though we're focusing on D today, there's so much important information that your clients can find in their report, and we're just going to talk about it in general terms. But just remember, when we talk about strengths of the D style, when they look at their own reports, those strengths are specific to themselves.
Yeah, every individual is going to get their own unique report. As you know, Christina, there are over 220 million unique reports. So everybody's going to get very specific information. And if we look at Sam here, who's a D style, and this comes from one section of the report where we show the person's natural behavioral style, which is that starting point of the error, and how they perceive they need to modify their behavior at the present time. But if we look at Sam, he certainly is going to be direct, and he's going to be competitive. And what may happen for not only Sam, but all of us, is that we find that these kind of behaviors are very comfortable to us. They're natural to our style. So the temptation is, and actually sometimes, I should say most often it happens, we're not even aware that it's happening, that we begin to autopilot. We begin to repeat the same behaviors with every individual in every situation. Of course, it does work sometimes when we're dealing with individuals who are very similar to our own style, but other times the results are not what they should be.
Right. So I think we do tend to stay in our comfort zone because, number one, it's comfortable. So, I mean, that's the most obvious reason. But what happens and to us is our style, I say it works until it doesn't. And sometimes if we have this awareness that we can push ourselves outside of our comfort zone, then that is a step towards achieving more success.
Yes, absolutely. If we don't have that self-awareness, and almost every webinar we talk about confidence, self-awareness, because we really need to have a clear understanding and awareness what our behavioral traits are. And what we hope to do with our assessments is to provide really honest look at individuals. And our philosophy is that if the person does not get some new information about themselves, like, hey, I didn't realize that I had this blind spot. I didn't realize that I use strengths to this extent that they become development areas. I feel that we have really failed. So hopefully your participants, when they're looking at their results, they may ask questions like, hey, I'm not so sure about this, because those are your greatest opportunities to really develop when you're providing something new. If the person says, hey, this is me, I understand, this is so accurate, well, the face validity is good, but we really haven't provided any new information that could provide them some kind of motivation to even think about modifying their behavior.
Right, and I say, if the information isn't new or doesn't push you to think about it, you just accept it and do nothing about it.
That's right.
So sometimes I always like to pre-warn when I'm doing training is when your clients are reading their reports, they oftentimes read about their strengths and say, hey, I like this about myself. But then they get to points where they're reading themselves and it's like, oh gosh, ouch, that's kind of harsh. Or, is this really true about me?
Yeah, I think that's the latter part really is this really true about me? And then they begin to think about that information in different contexts. And of course, it is particularly accurate in new situations. It's always easier for us to modify our behavior when we're dealing with familiar people and we're in familiar surroundings. But once we get literally out of our comfort zone with everything, we are dealing with new people or people who are very different from us, it becomes more and more challenging. And really the key point here is that we need to constantly, if we want to succeed, if we need to constantly think about who we are, what our natural tendencies are, and then make those clear decisions about how to modify behavior. No, we're not going to be 100% correct in those decisions all the time, but by practice, it becomes easier and easier to do. And when we begin to repeat that kind of behavior, i.e. modifying our behavior, that's when we achieve higher and higher level of success.
And I think that's where the extended DISC assessment can be so powerful. It gives us kind of that roadmap. It kind of shows us here's your comfort zone. It predicts how you tend or prefer to do things so that in different situations you can push yourself outside of it, and what happens to you when you are overusing your strengths, which I want Marku to talk about, which is what we call the 2 effect.
Yeah, 2 effect is really when we are being too much of ourselves. And here we have a sample from, looks like a D-style report, one section called their strengths. And just highlighting a couple of these, like this individual, because they are D-style, they're comfortable in taking risk, but they can also take too many risks or too large of a risk. Because they are comfortable doing it, sometimes they don't slow down and think about what are the potential consequences of their decisions or their actions. So when they are in that being D-style and it's so comfortable, they're feeding off that natural energy, they really need to make sure that they don't do it too much. Or maybe they are a little bit too decisive on their own and maybe somewhat arrogant even, that they're not really looking for others to provide valuable input. So need to be careful as a D that you don't use those tendencies too much. Obviously, the same concept applies to all behavioral styles and to every unique individual. Just look at your own report and look at those strengths and just add the word "to" in front of those strengths. And that's when you have the awareness. These are the things I need to be careful not to do to great of an extent.
And I think it's so powerful because it's not just us on the boards talking about these generic D styles. You're having your clients look at their own results, looking at the strengths that are specific to their natural style, and then putting themselves in situations where they've actually overused their strengths.
Yeah, everybody's going to have different strengths because we look at the very specific behavioral styles. So obviously these will change. And point is that we provide them as specific information as possible, so it becomes easier and easier to make those clear decisions about what to do, what not to do, and even sometimes what to continue doing.
Right, and I think one of the strengths of how we train and deliver DISC workshops is we don't just talk about the self-awareness piece, but we build in the application piece. What do you do now that you're aware of what happens when you overuse your strengths?
Yeah, having confidence, self-awareness is a wonderful thing and beautiful thing, but if you don't do anything with that information,
exactly.
No value is being created. And really the value is being created when we understand who we are, we begin to think about, identify other people's styles, and then always the most important step, how do I now modify my behavior rather than repeating the same behaviors over and over, although they are very comfortable to me. So like a D style, again, keeping with the D only today, a couple of things that in general terms, what they could learn is, hey, sometimes I need to just slow down. I'm very fast by my natural behavioral style. I prefer to go at the 1,000,000 miles an hour, but sometimes that speed is just too fast.
Right.
And sometimes if I slow down, I know it's going to take energy, getting out of my comfort zone, I can actually become more successful. But sometimes a little bit more patient, because these styles, as we know, and we all have experience, sometimes can be a little bit impatient because they are so quick, they're so decisive, and they get frustrated when others can't keep up.
I think for another one for D styles is just practicing being more patient. You know, D styles tend to be very individualistic. They're very task focused, but sometimes not everyone works the same way we do. And if we're a little bit more patient, in the end, the results may come sooner and exactly what we wanted to in the first place.
Yeah, and practicing a little bit of humility will help a great deal as well. And if you're a D style, what I would encourage you to do is, what is the end goal? What are you really trying to achieve? Because sometimes it's easier for us to do things at the very moment than we are a little bit too short term in our perspective. If you keep in mind as a D that this is the goals that I want to achieve, and then you think about what do I need to do in terms of my own behavioral modification to make necessary adjustments to achieve those results, maybe even at a faster pace. I know a D looks at it, if I'm more patient, if I slow down, how am I going to get there as fast? Sometimes you actually have to go slower to win the race.
Exactly. And so, you know, the end goal of helping our clients get out of the success trap or not fall into it is, for one, the self-awareness piece, knowing what your comfort zone is and not just resting there and overusing your strengths. That sometimes by pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, we're able to achieve more success. And I think the DISC assessment is powerful in the sense that it allows us to see how we tend to show up so that we can proactively be prepared before it happens.
Yeah, if we become more aware about how other people are likely to see us, I think then that's a great piece of information to have, because then we know, again, what do we need to watch out for? Again, going away from just being on autopilot, repeating the same behaviors, even that is more comfortable. If you want to become more successful, these are the things that you must do. Now, if you are completely happy being where you are, don't change. Don't change. But if you want to improve, it's like if you're running, if you want to improve your time, you need to push yourself through that comfort zone. It is painful, there's discomfort, sometimes a lot of sweat and tears even. But if you do those behaviors, then the results will be there. And of course, now we talked about D today. No matter what your style is, you can be extremely successful. That I often emphasize is that we find successful people. They come from all different backgrounds, different parts of the world, different education, different skill sets, etc., and also different DISC styles. So your DISC style has nothing to do how successful you're going to be. What you do with your DISC style, how you modify your behavior, that plays a key role how successful you are going to be. And of course, success is not a destination, it's a journey that will never end.
I love that. And so thank you, Markku, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hope you learned a little bit more ways to use DISC, how to help our clients succeed. We do have another webinar coming up next week on DISC styles under pressure. Not all DISC styles show up the same way.
They certainly do not, and it's going to be a fun webinar to look. And go to our website at extendeddisc.org. On the top toolbar on the right, there's an events tab. Click on there. You see all of our upcoming events and webinars. Even if you look at your calendar and say, I can't make it, register anyway, because we will send you a recording after the sessions.
Right. So thank you guys all for joining us, and look forward to the recording in a future email. We'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.